Hey everyone, Austin here, and welcome back to another episode of the Carlson Cards podcast. Now, this week was a week where I was very busy. I would say 2 weeks now, where I've been very busy, not spending a lot of time in the hobby or cards in general, still buying and selling a little bit, but just really have taken a step back for a few weeks here now. What I love about doing this podcast is I can have a conversation like the one you're about to hear today, and within seconds feel just fully refreshed and back all in on the hobby. Whether or not life is busy and crazy, all kind of the stresses just kind of float away for at least an hour while I have the conversation. And really, I hope you all get that same feeling when you listen in today or any week of this podcast specifically. I had a chance to sit down with Joey, who goes by at the eTrader on Instagram, and he has always been someone I've looked up to in the card space. I really like the way he collects. We have a similar taste in cards, and I just loved having the opportunity to have this conversation today. And huge thank you to Joey for hopping on. We talk a ton of different topics. We talk basketball, football, even a little baseball. We talk some of his recent acquisitions and really how he started and got to where he is now. And Joey throws in a ton of useful knowledge along the way. So I really hope you enjoy this episode. Let's kick it over to the conversation. Hello and welcome to episode 18 of the Carlson Cards podcast. We are joined today by Mr. Joey, who goes by at the eTrader on Instagram. I want to get Joey on here. He's a collector that I would say was probably the original guy that I really, without him knowing, I looked up to and kind of idolized the way he collected and the players he would go after. And like in general was always just a guy I was like, if I'm picking up the kind of cards that he's getting, I'm probably going in the right direction. And so that's kind of a funny way to initiate this, but really was just a way that, I want to get Joey on here, touch on a ton of topics, his collection. I know he's been picking up a lot of really, really, really cool cards very recently. So I'm excited to talk about those. And obviously, Joey, how are you doing? I know we were just chatting. The hurricane just happened, so we had to delay this a little bit, but how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Austin. Thanks for having me on, man. It was good to see you in Chicago and good to see you again now. But yeah, it's a good thing we didn't do this yesterday. Like I said, it was a little hectic around here, but fortunately, everybody's gonna be all right.
Yeah, and now we can talk about cards. A less serious topic for a little bit. Talk about cards
Fine
and
with me.
enjoy life.
It's
Yeah,
fine with
there you
me.
go. So, Joey, one request I had after the last episode, and this is a good comment somebody had, is just if I could ask my guests kind of to tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe where you're from, what do you do for work, how long you've been into cards, that sort of thing, just so people can get to know you before we get started too deep here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm 42 years old. I started collecting in the mid 80s, like a lot of 42-year-olds, and I work in ophthalmology. I have a small business, and we buy and sell refractive lasers for eye surgery. We ship them all over the world. So reputation and relationships in my professional life is equally as important as in my personal life with cards, right? And there's a lot of that actually transitions over. Um, the history of my IG handle is actually my eBay handle, which dates back to 1998. And yeah, is when I've always been infatuated with buying and selling things online. And actually, the infatuation started with finding things because it was not very easy to find certain sneakers, certain car parts, certain cards, all that stuff until we had eBay and obviously the internet. So yeah, it's kind of an early adopter of that, and the name just kind of stuck, and I transitioned it over to Instagram. So that's the history behind there.
So I got to ask Joey, with you having gotten into cards in the 80s, did you consistently collect or you recently got back into them? From what I'm aware of, you've been collecting a lot longer than myself in terms of consistency wise, at least in the last 5-10 years. How long have you been doing this seriously now?
Yeah, so I think everybody has had their hobby die and come back to life per se during their lifetime. So no, I stopped in high school like most people did, right? And then, or I would say I stopped in junior high school, and then really when eBay came around, I was like, what can I pop in here? Because eBay used to be like Google in a sense that there were no categories. You just had a blank search bar. And if you wanted to see it, you had to type it in, right? It wouldn't even tell you if there were similar things. You literally had to type in what you were looking for. So I used to be obsessed with Jose Canseco. And I spent way too much time and money buying stupid Jose Canseco cards, right? In like the late 90s. on eBay, and every one that I wanted as a kid that either I couldn't find it, couldn't buy it, whatever the case may be, I'm like hoarding these things. I remember they were coming in through the mail. Like you'd have to mail somebody a money order, or you mailed them like $50 in cash or something. And that's where it came back to life the first time, right? And then I stopped again because went to college, started my professional career. You kind of forget about it. And shout out to, I'll give him one shout out. It's Apocalypse Cards, Corey, because we had worked together. He's also in ophthalmology, and we worked together years ago. And he started to kind of get me back into it. And I think how it happened is he used to work for me, and he's in my office, and he gets a package one day, and I'm like, "What is it?" He's like, "Oh, it's nothing." And he like kind of huddled it and took it into his office, and it was like a box of Bowman's Best, right, from like 1998. And he wouldn't show it to me, and I finally had to be like, "Wait, what is this?" And we started talking about cards, and that developed a whole nother layer of our relationship that still exists today. And I got back into collecting then and basically never stopped. So that was probably like 2010. And honestly, those years right there, those buys right there really sculpted the groundwork that allowed me to move in the collection that I have now. And to this day, I'm still selling stuff and trading stuff and moving stuff that I acquired during those years, man, because I got a little smarter, right? The first time it was Jose Canseco, right? The next time I was like, okay, I'm going to buy every single notable card I can find that I could think of as a kid that was desirable in a gem mint grade or the highest grade I can get. So that was Michael Jordan rookie, all the 80s basketball star rookie, Dennis Rodman, Reggie Miller, John Stockton, all those guys, Frank Thomas, Ken Griffey Jr., any of those iconic cards that you can show it to somebody and they say, "Oh, I know what that is." Bought them all as much as I could. Only one of each, unfortunately. That was never, duplicates was never an idea for me. I commend so many guys that have done that, right? But that wasn't my thing. One of everything, right? And I kept those cards for a really long time. And then as I would say, my hobby sword got sharper, right? I used those to move into other pieces and sold them and traded them and, started to understand the more rare things. I've always been obsessed with stuff that's shiny, refractors, I like gold stuff like that. So yeah. And to this day, like I said, I'm still moving that kind of stuff. I don't have much left. I always say that, but I don't have much left, but still a few left.
So a quick one here too. Crazy. You mentioned Apocalypse Cards. I've
Yeah.
just got to meet him right before the National on Instagram. I don't think he was at the show, but it's so weird. You're saying you worked with him, and it's just this network within these cards is way
Yeah.
smaller than you think. Like I had no idea you're going to say that. And again, I'm very new to chatting with Corey, but he's an awesome dude. Crazy enough that he worked for you. That's really surprising.
You know what's crazy about Corey too? Is so we both work in ophthalmology, and not to get off track here or anything, but I'm on the business end. I run a business, I have employees, stuff like that. Corey works in the OR. He teaches doctors how to use very sophisticated equipment and teaches them very sophisticated eye procedures in surgery, which when you meet him, it's hard to believe because he's this big, jolly, happy dude and he's kind of goofy and all that stuff. But I can tell you one thing, Corey can flip a switch and he is literally training ophthalmologists in an R, which is a crazy thing to what he does. I mean, I could never do what he does. He's incredibly intelligent and the things that he knows in our industry is unbelievable.
And it's interesting too, he taught you, well, got you back into cards. I'm sure some part of it, he taught you what you've been missing these last 10 years. And he's taught me a lot from chatting with him. So now that you say that, I can definitely feel that he probably has that background professionally too. That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, also some of the biggest cards that I bought that I had no idea what they were, like a Mike Trout refractor auto gem mint. I bought it. He told me to buy it in 2011, right? And
Wow.
a lot of a lot of those cards that I bought were because of him. He pushed me into them.
So he's the
So
genius behind the curtains. He's the Wizard of Oz. I got it.
yeah. His taste has changed a little bit over the years, but we all have our own taste.
Yeah. So to tie back to what you were talking about, picking up these iconic cards as you kind of came back in, that was your goal. You set
Mhm.
aside this list, it sounds like, and went for it.
Yep.
What was the mindset that led to that? Was it a literal like, hey, I believe in this industry. I'm going to buy these cards. These seem like the ones to own long term. I'm going to hold on to them for a while, and maybe if my interests change, I can use them to trade. Like, were you that well thought out at that point, or you were just thinking, I got some money.
No.
This is cool. I'm going to go buy it.
No, I was not thought out at all. I wish I was, right? Because yeah, but no, I basically was like, okay, look, now I'm in an area in my life where I can afford things. I'm not a child anymore, and I'm independent and all stuff. So basically, when I went to a card show as a kid, when I saw cards that I knew were iconic and they had a $200 price tag on them, whatever it was, and I couldn't buy it, I'm gonna buy it. That was the mentality. And me and my brother's the same age, he's a little older than me. He helped me find stuff, and I was like buying it, buying it, buying it. No name on front, Frank Thomas, like anything like that, right? And these cards at that time were all anywhere from $40 to, I mean, $500 was a lot to spend on a card at that point. To $500, really, and most of them were kind of in that price range. And like I said, if it was something cool that we always liked, and it was usually between me and my brother, and it was like, hey, get one of those, I'll get one, and hey, let me know if you ever get a better one. And the no name on front, Frank Thomas, is one that come to mind because he has my old one, my brother has, right? Because I found a nicer one, sent him my old one, and kept the nicer one. So I like that. I like when where cards go, right?
You kind of keep that connection with people you care about as well, who have now cards that you care about. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, it was just anything that was iconic that I felt was important. I felt like it was good to have. And like I said, was I thinking, oh yeah, 10 years from now, this thing's going to be worth 5, 10 grand? No, not at all. I did it just out of kind of nostalgia, and because I was able to, and you could do it from the couch, and it was just something different.
So to fast forward a bit, now you own these cards. Let's skip ahead like 5, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
I'd imagine values are going up in these cards you picked up. How did timing and patience fit in during this time period where you saw the values of your cards were probably going up? You maybe had your interest changing, like you said. You mentioned shiny cards. You kind of probably sounds like had cards you maybe were looking at switching into and maybe trading, buying and selling. How did you, number one, I guess, how did you go about this? And again, where did the patience and timing kind of fit in with this? If you could tie that in.
When you start to understand supply, but also likability and a player's accomplishments, is when you start to kind of understand why cards go up. Because I didn't really care if they were going up or not. It's just when they got to a point where, certain cards were worth X amount of dollars, you have to be like, okay, so now can I turn this into another card that I think is way better, that I didn't think I'd ever get, that has far less and is far more collectible? And you just start to kind of ask yourself those questions. And then what I did is I separated my collection into two collections, right? You have your true PC that is really stuff that's not coming out of there, right? And then you have your things that are completely replaceable. And when I say that, I mean, if you can go buy one, especially now with all the tools that are available to find stuff, it's insane. But if you can go buy a card right now that and just go on eBay and buy it, or wherever you want to shop and just go buy it, it's probably not for my collection anymore. And once I started to kind of see that and say, hey, well, yeah, this Michael Jordan second year, PSA 9, it's awesome, it's great, but it's $2,000, and I can always go buy on eBay for $2,000. I paid $150 for it. Like, I think it's time to turn this into something that is much more rarer, right? And that was kind of my mentality, and it still is, dude. I've been on this like consolidation period, slab consolidation, for like 3 years now, man. And I'm getting close to the end to where it's like, all right, I'm not going to have that much stuff left to consolidate to, and it's not really price consolidation. It's scarcity and desirability, and picking the right players, right? Aside from the guys that we like to watch or liked to watch, right? But it's also getting stuff that I enjoy owning, and you know that someday if you need to, upgrade it, or you want to upgrade it, or you have the red one, you want to get the green one, whatever the case may be, you have enough ammunition to be able to do that, because you kind of have to also know your trading partner too, right? So
It's a great. I love that word ammunition because it sounds like the story
that's
here.
what it is,
And,
man.
and a quick question too, just in
Mhm.
regards to this. So again, you just mentioned you've been consolidating for probably 3 years here.
Mhm.
At this point, what kind of story do you want an E-Trader collection to be telling? Like, what kind of story do you want this consolidation of cards to be telling when somebody comes in and looks at your collection and says, "Wow, Joey has this. This is really awesome." Like, what do you want to be sharing when you have these cards in front of you?
Probably like the most iconic, most desirable cards of the best people, right?
Hmm.
The best players. Whether and it's not necessarily players too. I collect a little bit of non-sport stuff, like a couple. I have a Bart Simpson's Art to Bart sketch card. I got some other stuff like that that's like iconic. You show it to somebody and they're like, "Holy crap! I have never held one of those before. I've just seen pictures of it." That's kind of the punch I'm looking for in everything.
And so the difference between that and like, let's again say what you bought in 2010 or whatever is now we're talking about stuff that like you already said, you absolutely cannot find. So is that serial numbered type of thing that is that what
Mhm.
your threshold is? Or is it like you look and say, okay, there's been two that have sold in the last 20 years? Like, is it how do you go about what's your threshold and kind of boundary you keep yourself in now?
Yeah, I mean, definitely try to get stuff that's serial numbered, but you remember there's plenty of stuff in the, so as far as the era of collecting, I think that the golden age of collecting, I would say, would be like the early 90s to the mid 2000s, right? I think we have the best cards were produced in that era, right? Of true limited supply, right? Not manipulated, not different, various different colors and variants, all that stuff. It just was organic, low supply, right? So serial number is super important. And yeah, we all want something with a serial number. I think that we all can agree that typically if it's got a serial number on it, it's going to hold its value better, right? And it's going to be more desirable. You can track them, you kind of know where they are. But there's still stuff in the early 90s, man, that was super short printed that they didn't have serial numbers yet, right? Early refractors, bro, they're not serial numbers, right? And they're probably my favorite things to collect, and hardly any of them are serial numbered, the early ones. So, so it's important, but it's not everything. Obviously, understanding a pop report, I think, is really important. I think it sucks that everybody's crossed and cracked, and it's thrown off a lot of these pop reports. And I don't think we're ever going to know the truth on some of this stuff, but still, it's a good guide.
Joey, right here now, I'm going to jump over to some of the card photos that you sent me. I hope you don't
Hmm.
mind jumping over here.
Yeah.
So this first one we have in front of us, and as we go through these, if you could just maybe share what we're looking at. So again, somebody's just listening, doesn't have the visual, knows what we're talking about. So you give me two,
Hmm.
I think, honorable mentions here. Recent, this one's a recent pickup, and then
Yeah.
four cards from Mount Rushmore. So what's this first card we're going to talk about here?
All right. So it's a Barry Sanders 1997 Precious Metal Gems red. So for those of you that don't know this card, they're very desirable. They're serial numbered to 150 in football. The first 100, or excuse me, the first 15 are green, and the last 135 are red. So obviously, the green cards are pretty much unobtainium. They hardly ever come up for sale. I know a Jerry Rice just sold for about, I think, $100,000, but
Oh my gosh.
yeah, they're super rare. This is like an unexpected pickup that I actually got raw. Um, it's an interesting story because it occurred at a local show, and one of my buddies, I was actually driving over to the show, and one of my buddies that's a dealer, that sets up, called me because he knows I love PMGs, and he said, "Hey, young gentleman's here with this card raw. He wants to sell it. Um, I think it's a great card. And by the way, a lot of these I wouldn't call them fake, but I would call them backdoor examples, meaning they didn't come out of a pack. They were like cut from a sheet, or they were backup cards. They didn't have a serial number, and somebody stamped the serial number on the back. So, And unfortunately, they still make it into slabs, those cards. So this is
Is
a
that common
very,
on reds as well as greens, Joey? Sorry to interrupt.
I've seen it on both,
Okay, good.
right?
That's what I was
But yeah,
curious.
I feel like it's more common on greens, right?
Yep.
But I've seen it on both. And this is a very risky card to buy raw. So anyway, so he called me and told me, he's like, hey, I'd be interested in the card for my inventory, but he kind of wants too much money for it. It is raw. I'm not comfortable taking the risk. I don't know what to do. You want to talk to him, blah, blah, blah. So I said, yeah, man, I'm on my way to the show. I'll be there like 20 minutes. So I met him. Great story. He found the card in his dad's box under his bed the night before. Right. Yeah. Right. Great story. And I believed him. It's a local show. It's a small room. Everybody kind of knows each other. I don't know why he'd come in there with a lie like that. So I believed him, and he was honest. And I said, look, man, I'm a collector. I'm not a dealer. I can tell you right now that nobody in this room, as a dealer, is going to pay you this much for this card because it's raw. These are literally the worst card to buy raw, period. It's one of the worst cards in the hobby to buy raw, right? And I said, look, I can tell you how to get the most money for this card. You need to invest about $1,500, some of your time, go to PSA, start an account, send it in. Don't send it anywhere else. Get the card graded, send it to Golden, send it to PWCC, send it to MC Sports Cards, send it to one of these good big consigners, right? And they're going to get you all the money for whatever you have in your hand right now. And he said, well, what do you think it would grade? Right? So I looked at it really close. My buddy looked at it really close. It's got like a couple of PNG issues. All these cards have issues, right? And it's got, a little bit of a white corner. It's got some chips in the back. But it's in really good condition for a PMG. And I thought it would grade a 5 or a 6, right? My buddy thought the same thing. So I told him, so look, I think it'd grade a 5 or a 6. It's got a shot at a 7, and you never know. But that's the reason why nobody in this room is going to risk any more than X, because that risk is almost like a reward for the person that spends the money. So if that's what you want for it, that's what you have to do. So long story short, we wound up kind of doing a 3-way deal with the dealer, because I told the dealer, I said, look, man, I have a relationship with him, and we basically agreed, hey, this is what, he gets it graded, and he needed some inventory. So I had a lot of stuff to trade, and we kind of did a 3-way deal to where he gets it graded, and whatever it comes back, we'll kind of settle up. Right. Well, it came back way higher than both what we thought. So, I sent him some more cards, and that was it. I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal. But I guess the shocking thing to the whole deal is, like, I don't know why the collector just didn't do what we told him to do. I don't know if he thought we were posturing, and I also think that a part of it was he was getting some other advice from other people that got there or before I got there, and they were giving him bad advice. Like, somebody told him to take it to SGC because you can drive it there. Like, no, that's not, somebody else told him to send it to BGS because it's cheap. No, if you're trying to get all the money for something, you do not cut corners, period. You don't cut them. You're going to have to pay a high commission to sell it. You're going to have to pay a good amount of money to get it graded. You have to ship it right properly. You don't cut corners. So if you're not willing to do that stuff, then you're not going to get premium money for something. You're going to get way less, because somebody else is going to do it to make the money or to keep it in their PC and stuff like that. So that's the story behind this card, and I am keeping it. I think it's awesome. It's a top 5, and it's the highest one graded.
Wow, that's incredible. So,
Yeah.
so this was the situation kind of like, again, you gave him, because I've been there, right? You run into these people who have these crazy cards and they don't know what they have, and you kind of try to guide them a little bit. So was it kind of like you gave him that option, but then also, was it also but if you want to sell to us, we will offer you blank, but we think you can get more if you do X. Is that kind of what you had
Yep.
worked with them? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Because it goes back to what you're asking about my professional career, right? I do business all over the world. People on the other end of the phone, or on the other end of the computer, or other end of the whatever you want to call it, in the end, they have to trust me.
Mm-hmm.
They have to trust me, because we're not gonna we don't do a lot of face-to-face business. We do sometimes, but generally speaking, it's remote and it's all reputation, and we have to tell them the truth. And I tell people no differently when we buy equipment to resell it. We say, look, you want to sell this on your own? You can. You have to put work in. You might have to spend some money. You're going to have to take some risk, but in the end, you're going to end up with more money. If this is not what you want to do and you want it gone, this is what you can get for it. There's no wrong answer. It's just what your comfort level is and how much time you want to put into something.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I'm sure for this situation, you probably thought this through too. I bet you the person was just like, didn't know I had it. I can get X amount of thousands of dollars right here. I'm just going to take it and be done with it. I'd imagine that's probably what happened. That's
Yeah.
crazy. And I'm happy and super excited this ended up in your hands because, again, you're a guy who your collection, it's like, this just seems like it just fits, like it's not like you're
Oh yeah.
necessarily like a hardcore Barry Sanders collector, but you have like a sprinkle of every best player of
Mm-hmm.
all time and their best cards. And I just think that's really awesome. So happy for you, man. And this is really
Thanks,
cool.
man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And fill me in here. So the photo is just, very, very red. You can't actually see the background design on this one. I'm not familiar what it is. What's the background on the berry on this card
Oh,
here?
dude, super shiny. I don't know if you could see that, but
Is it like, is there an
he's
animal in it? I know like the Favre has a grizzly bear and some
oh,
winter, like,
okay. So another reason why I like the Barry Sanders is because it doesn't get inundated with foil in the
mm,
player, right? A lot of them do like the Emmett Smith, he's wearing some, it's almost like it looks like a jetpack. This one has like a radioactive target in the red foil. You can't really see it,
mhm,
but it's like right behind him, right where it says precious metal gems. It's like a radioactive, almost like
interesting.
the radioactive.
On stream here, if I'll put this on YouTube, maybe I'll throw the base card up on a visual so people can see that too.
Yeah, you can see
That's
better
really
with the
cool.
base. Totally.
Oh man, that's awesome. Okay, I don't know how we're gonna step this up, but ready for the next card?
Yep, let's see it.
And the thing is, it only gets better from here, arguably. So this is crazy.
Yeah, I think I know the order you're in. So yeah, let's see it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
next card here, I got to tell you, I'm gonna be messaging. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna give this one. This one's amazing though, man. Tell me how do you get this card and what are we looking at here?
Okay, so this is Tom Brady's first select gold prism. Now, his first gold prism was the year before in Panini Prism, which is 2012. This is the first year of Panini Select, which is a lower grade Panini Prism, basically, right? Now, in my opinion, I picked this card for a couple of reasons. Number one, I truly, it is my favorite gold Brady that I have, but also, it's got tons of shine. It's a great, it's a great photo, and you're obviously going after the set. So I figured you'd like to see it. Dude, so this card, bro, this card was on my list, my eBay push for like 6 years, 7 years, something like that. One went up raw probably 3 years ago or 2 years ago. I don't remember when. And it went up for bid.
Mhm.
And I was away, right? And I was bidding on the fly when it was closing. It was horrible. I was like in an airport or something like that, and it sucked, and I lost. And I'm like, I don't think I'm going to see another one of these for a really long. So that was that, and I was right. Didn't see any. And then the boom happens. A BGS 9, which this used to be a BGS 9, right? Goes up during the boom, sells for like 35, 40K. And I'm like, okay,
Wow.
well, I'm never going to have this card, right? Ever.
Because you just assume it's going to keep going. That's what we're all of our. I remember that because you're looking at every auction was higher than the previous. It's like it's a little discouraging almost because you're I missed the boat. We're not going to get this one.
Yeah, I was, but I was kind of annoyed about it, but I've kind of
Mhm.
accepted it. And at that point, I was like, all right, well, I'm probably not going to have any of these gold prisms that I want, and that's fine. So fast forward to like November 2022, and PWCC, I don't know what the hell was going on. I don't know if somebody lost their ass. I don't know. Somebody was over leveraged. And quite frankly, I don't care because there were a massive exodus of Brady golds in those premier auctions, right? And that same BGS 9, which is this card, because I crossed it right now it's PSA. That same exact card, same serial number, is up in the premier auction. And I'm like, oh boy, great. Well, here, I'll bid, whatever, right? I bid like $7,500. And dude, I put that bid in like a week or like, when it got listed. not thinking anything of it. I'm watching like, I don't remember what we were watching. I was watching some Netflix shit with my girlfriend laying in bed, and I get an email and I won.
Dude, that
Because
is so insane.
nobody bid in after in the extended bidding, and I won. And I was like, I can't believe it. And I think Gunther won the Superfractor. They went super cheap. A couple, I mean, they all went super cheap. I also won the 2018 Prism Gold PSA 9, which I still have. They all sold for like a fraction. I
Because
mean,
you're talking
literally.
like 20% of what they, some of them, the literally exact same copy for 20% of what they had went for, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Somebody or multiple people, for whatever reason, don't care. It doesn't matter. We're taking a bath, and everybody was afraid of the economy. Nobody's buying anything, and I'm just like, oh my god, like, this is amazing. I couldn't believe it. Like I just cleaned up, and I thought I did. You know, who knows what happens in the future? But as long as I feel good about it, great. And that's basically where and how I acquired this card. And I crossed it over at the National, and shout out to DT Sports Cards. He did it all for me. He cracks them. He preps them. Dude, he's amazing. His website's amazing. It texts you when your cards move through the process, and you don't have to ever look at your account. It just texts you what's going on. So yeah, so that's the story behind that one.
Yeah, I've heard everyone who talks about him has had very, very good experiences. So shout out to DT Sports Cards as well if you guys are looking for a group sub or something like that.
Yep.
So I gotta ask this too. So what is your learning lesson here? Like, is it reaffirmed to you now that if something crazy happens, the prices go nuts, you're just gonna kind of go back in the shadows for a little bit and come back in and strike? Like, is that what you're taking away from this a little bit here?
Honestly, yeah. Don't get too caught up on the fact that oh darn, I missed the boat. Because here's the thing: no matter what, even if there's only 10, somebody is going to see that last sale and they're going to say, I like that last sale better than I like this card. Sell. Right?
Yep.
No matter what. And I learned that. And I think, I think Captain's kind of one that's like, he would always be like, he was often right. He was like, oh, we just saw this sale. Now we're going to see 2 more. Or don't worry, like, because I remember I missed something else and I was bummed out about it. He's like, dude, that thing's sold for four times more than the last one. You're going to see another one. And then within 60 days, another one pops up. So yeah, I think that's a big learning experience. And don't get me wrong, I'm guilty of chasing and overpaying for cards as well. Like, totally done it. You know, it is what it is. I mean, one of these is probably one of those cards, but yeah, you have to kind of be patient. And the biggest thing is the supply, man. Obviously, if there's only 3, then or a 5, if it's like a gold vinyl or something like that, obviously then it might be a little bit of a different conversation. But even when there's 10 and it's a modern card, 10 modern card, I think you have a pretty good shot of finding another one, at least as long as you're patient. I think if you go back of 2010 before that, and it's a card that's numbered to 10, I don't think so. I think it's a little bit of a different conversation. I think you might have to chase that one because we still have plenty of cards that, like the PMG Reds for basketball, bro. There's only 90 of them, and the pop reports don't even reflect half. So we'll get into one of those in a second. We can talk about that.
Well, it's interesting too, and I like your point here because even I just think of like compared to the 2002 Finest Gold Refractor. Have you ever seen one up for sale? And they're out of 25. I've never
Uh,
seen one.
so no, I
Uh-oh.
haven't. You talking about a Brady?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me show you something. I didn't have it for this call, but
No way.
Dave literally texted me this about 3 hours ago. He's on his way to Burbank, and this just popped. This is mine.
Dude, oh my God. PSA 9,
So
huh?
to
That's
answer
crazy.
your question, you can go back in Card Ladder, and I know Card Ladder is amazing for looking up old deals, but like the reality is it doesn't have everything because I've tried to look up stuff, but it's great. I mean, probably 85%. You go look for that card, dude. Ghost. It's a
I have
ghost.
recently, there's nothing. I mean, there's literally nothing since like maybe, I don't know, 15 years ago that from what I could tell. I mean, there's
It's
nothing.
crazy. I
How
mean,
did you
the
get
X
that one?
Factor. Gunther I don't know how the hell he got it, but he got it, and after kind of months of going back and forth, and I had to trade a very important card to get it, which was
Hmm.
an Aaron Rodgers Superfractor that I pulled out of a pack.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. But you know what though? It was worth it because it was almost like, I held that card for a really long time. I feel like now would be the time to move it because he's getting some hype. He's not going to probably be very popular in a couple of years. And I landed the freaking whale that, we've been fishing for just a ridiculous amount of time, man. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't even know. I've been nagging people about that thing. Like, hey, if you see one, I'm like studying the BGS report. I'm like, hey, there's an 8.5 out there. I'll take that one. Right. Like, I don't care. I don't care what it is. And yeah, so there's only 2 of those in PSA holders, and they're both
That's so
nines.
absurd. So
And
absurd.
I know where the other one is too. And
Wow.
it's not going anywhere. I can tell you that right now. I know where it's at. And yeah, so that's kind of cool. I wanted to kind of have that here because I thought you would like it, but it's all good.
No, that's funny. And obviously it's like crazy the coincidences. Like I just bring up that card and you happen to have it. I had no clue. That's obviously very recent that you got it though. It sounded
Yeah.
like, right? Okay, cool.
National. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Wow. That's
Hmm.
super exciting. That Gunther man, he gets these cards that just come through his hands. And I'm like, where is he finding this stuff? He finds them
Yeah.
somewhere.
I give him credit because yeah, man, like he finds them, right? He's just, I don't know where the hell he finds them, but like that one was a find. I mean, literally, I've never even had anybody offer that to me,
Hmm.
even for like a stupid price, So
And I just picked up a card from him too. I like he seems like he gets hands in the cards of no cards in the hands of people who really want them, which is kind of neat. Like I like that he goes about that. It's kind of a good way to do this, I feel like.
yeah, totally. And again, it goes back to what we were saying. You know where the card ends up. To some people, to true collectors, that matters. That
Mhm.
matters. You know, it matters. It's a huge factor. So
Especially one you're not going to see for 15 years.
yeah, right.
Okay. So now we're going to jump over to your Mount Rushmore. These are the top 4 cards by your estimation in your collection, your favorites, I should say. So we have some crazy ones. I'd love if you could start on that one on the left over here.
Yeah. So the Kobe. Um, so I have a list of cards that I'm after, right? And it's just a notepad on my phone, and it's been a list in there for probably 5 years, 6 years, and it's got a list of grails that I'm looking for. And I don't use that word very often. Okay. And what I do is I kind of track the market if and when one comes up, or even maybe a similar one comes up, and I'll put in there, okay, hey, it sold for X or blah blah blah, or I know somebody traded for it, whatever the case may be. And the Kobe has been at the top of that list for probably about 3 years. I was at the national. I don't remember what show. It was a big show. I want to say it was national. I don't remember, but Brady cards were really starting to take off, and I had my Contenders rookie with me. I don't have it anymore. I've sold it, but I had it with me because I was going to get it reslabbed. And sitting at a table talking to the dealer, and he pulls out a Kobe like this, and I was like, "Holy crap, man!" Like he's like, "Yeah, I'm trying to look for trade for a rare Tom Brady card," and I'm like, "I got this," but the problem is the Tom Brady wasn't rare, right?
Mm.
And I understood that, but that was like a big aha moment for me to be like, okay, well, yeah, this card might be liquid, but it's not rare. And he didn't want to sell that Kobe. He wanted to trade it for something similarly, maybe with some money plus or minus, but like primarily get a card back in return that was equally as desirable. And ironically, that card was the same grade, right? It was authentic altered in a PSA holder. And initially, I probably didn't want to go for an altered one, but then I started to study the pop report, and my main focus was PSA holder. That's what I wanted, right? Just because it just looks right. That's what I like. We can have a whole nother discussion about that, but I wanted a PSA holder, right? So that was number one. Then I started to look at it. I said, well, you know what? All the grades of these suck. They're all shitty,
Because
right?
this is
There's
the PMG basketball, the Reds here are this similar for football where you have the same issues, obviously, right?
Yeah, and it's
Yep.
worse. I think it's worse in football or in basketball for some reason. I think it's worse, right? Because all of them are shitty grades. So then I started to look at it. This is a pop 7, and listen to this. Out of all of the entire PSA pop report, there's only 23 Kobe's slapped total.
Wow.
So 7 are altered, and the other whatever the 16 are graded, and like all the grades pretty much are 3, 1, 5, 2, 5. So I'm like, you know what? I'll go for an altered one because it'd be an easier card to acquire. So that was 3 years ago. Now I'm walking towards the Nationals. I think I saw you when this card
Which is
literally
again crazy because I saw when you first is that when you first stumbled on this card was when I ran
yeah,
into you as
dude.
well, and I saw
Yeah,
you
dude.
looking at this Kobe Red in the showcase, and I'm like, oh crap! I'm like, I better go away so I don't interrupt anything. But holy crap!
I was like sweating because I'm like, shit, right? And it was completely unexpected. And you're never, as much as I knew the market, you're never prepared to just be like, oh, okay, I'll take it, right? Like, no, it's just not the way. It's just not the way this works, right? Now, fortunately, Grant was awesome, and he is a stand-up guy, both hobby-wise, business-wise. Everything is amazing. And we talked about it then. I didn't make the deal then. It took me, it took about a month or whatever to make the deal. But like, um, I was, talking to him about it. And this kind of goes back to know your trading partner, right? And I'm looking at what he has and I'm feeling him out. And I had some really good stuff that he was interested in with me, but I also knew it wasn't his wheelhouse. I just knew it. Like this mantle, for example, I had it with me just in case. And he liked it, he thought it was great, but I could tell it just wasn't his thing. So I told him, I said, look, man, I've been like slowly moving stuff to save up for one of these. And I have a plan that I think I can put in fast forward. So let's exchange information. Let me work on it. You get somebody that wants to buy it, go sell it, but I'll stay in touch with you. And he said, great. Right. So stayed in touch with him. We talked about it. We talked on the phone one day for like 20 minutes. We talked about everything but the card. Didn't even talk about the card. And had a brief conversation about it. He's like, all right. He's like, we're gonna make a deal really quickly. No big deal. We'll figure it out. Couple hours later, it was done. Right. So that's the pinnacle of my collection. That is my favorite card that I have. Just for a lot of reasons, from the scarcity aspect of it, from the desirability aspect of it, and also like I wanted to buy the Michael Jordan and the Kobe like 8 years ago, and I talked myself out of it because I'm like, you have to be an idiot to spend this kind of money on a piece of cardboard, right? Because back then I don't remember how much they were, but they were nowhere near what they are now. And I didn't do it. I talked myself out of it. And now I'm just like kind of determined, I guess, it was a good accomplishment for me and I like it. And he knows it's in it forever home. And yeah, so that's the story behind the Kobe.
That's so exciting and crazy enough. I had Grant on here like the week prior to the national, and he mentioned he showed his, which I don't remember the grade, and then he mentioned he had an authentic altered one.
Mhm.
And what's crazy is I obviously imagine he's talking about this card. And if I recall, he mentioned that I think he said this, that he almost likes to look at this one better because the altering was like a touch up with some red marker. Is that right?
All it is on the back border, somebody tapped. You're never gonna be able to see it, but somebody basically looked at it and said, "Ooh, maybe I can color this with red." And they touched it with a marker and they said, "That's a bad idea." And that was it. Right. Whereas the ones I've looked at before, because again, there's 7, right? I've seen the other ones. They're actually like colored around the border, which
Mhm.
which obviously, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. But the color is gorgeous. And yeah, Grant's got a 4. Grant's
Okay.
got a
Yeah.
in his PC. Yeah. Which again, and that's another thing. If I find a card that is on my list and the person I'm dealing with has 2 of them, you're making a really good decision. Okay. That's my opinion. And that holds true with this to Brady that we're probably going to talk about next.
So yeah, let's jump over to this Brady then. I think it's a perfect segue here. And obviously, again, another one where it's just like, congrats, dude. I'm really happy. And obviously, it's great that you and Grant were able to make out a nice deal. He seems like a guy that would be easy to work with on stuff like
Yeah,
this. So
definitely.
what's the Brady card we have here? What are we looking at?
So okay, so Tom Brady obviously was drafted in 2000. He didn't have a lot of cards for a rookie if you compare him to say Peyton Manning, right? Who was 2 years earlier, number 1 draft pick. Tom Brady is 6th round. kind of a nobody, had a bunch of shitty cards. He's wearing sweatpants, junk, cheap, a lot of cheap lower end rookies. He didn't have any Topps cards until 2002, right? So in 2002 Topps, he's got obviously a base Topps card. He's got a base Topps Chrome card. And then there's a couple other variants of this card that are like promo cards and redemptions and stuff like that. Well, he only has one refractor, and this is it. And it's numbered to 599. This card has been on an absolute roller coaster, right? Just the card in general, not a PSA 10, but just the card in general has been on a roller coaster. It's a pop 13. I probably know where maybe 8 of them are, right? And this is another one where, it was like, did a trade for it. And like, I knew that Kevin was the one to trade with. He was like, he had another one for himself, right? Another one. And I knew like, hey, Kevin knows what he's doing. He's smart. He's just, he knows the hobby. And I knew I was making a good decision. And it's just, I love Topps. I've always collected Topps. Just as a kid, that's kind of all there was at one point, right? And it's really his Topps rookie card per se. I mean, it's not a rookie card, but it's it's his first Topps card. It's the rarest variant of the card. It's numbered to 599, and like I said, that the PSA 10's a pop 13. But like, dude, this card in like other grades in 7, 8, and 9 is just been all over the place. I mean, I'm talking. You want to talk about one of the Lamine James FU
Middle
charts,
finger
bro.
chart. It's the middle finger
Man,
chart. It spikes up, goes back down.
dude, I think a 9 at one point got as high as 16,000 and as low as
Wow.
as low as like 1,500 or something like that. Crazy. But and again, there's a lot of them. There's a pretty good amount of them because I mean, they're the cards in general are in really good condition from that set. I mean, there's a lot of 7, 8s, and 9s, of any card in that set, not just the Brady. So
Yeah, the centering's really bad if I recall right. Especially, I mean, I don't know about the black refractors here, but I've graded some base Topps Chrome and they're off centered
yep,
pretty badly. It seems like often.
yep, totally. And that was like Topps is kind of mo at that point. They were just they just cut as many cards as they felt they needed to, and that was it. And there really wasn't a focus on that sort of quality. I mean, they had quality control, but nothing like Gem Mint quality control. And and again, like this kind of goes back to the golden age of collecting, right? You've got the base card and you have the black refractor to 599. That's it. There's no X factor. There's no base refractor. There's no anything. Now, would this card look sick in gold? Of course, right? Of course it would. Would it be awesome in a superfractor? Yeah, of course it would be great. But at the same time, there are none of those parallels. This is it. So that organic scarcity is what I think is super important.
I really think that so this set I really love for that reason, like you said. And then I also think that Finest that year, that again with gold we just talked about, I think that was like peak perfect parallels where there's a base, there's an X refractor out of 20, a gold refractor out of
Mm-hmm.
25, and then a base refractor out of 250, I think, or 199. Something like
Yeah,
that.
250.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like to me, that is it. That's perfect for me. I don't know about you, but I love that.
Oh, absolutely. And here's the thing too, man. Back in the day, Topps Finest, that was it. That was the pinnacle premium product. I have no idea what happened, but like mid 90s, like 1996 maybe, I think the script got flipped to where, now, Topps Chrome was the king and Finest was kind of pushed back. I don't know why. I mean, I said when I was a kid, it was Finest. It was super expensive. You couldn't buy it as a kid. You just looked at it. And that was it. So I'm curious to see what happens in the future. I know they're going to bring this stuff back. I know, and then people are going to be going back to a lot of this stuff and saying, "Hey, where are the similarities? What can I do? What can I find?" But I'm curious if they bring back Finest and if they bring back some of those nostalgic parallels that are super freaking rare. Because I 1,000% agree with you. 250 on a base refractor, 200 on an X factor, 25 or 20 on an X factor, and 25 golds. I think that's awesome because at 25 golds, normally that keeps it within an obtainable range. When it gets to 10, they start to get a little pricey, especially if you're collecting, some of the top players. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. So, Joey, one question I meant to ask on this one too that came to mind. You mentioned price fluctuations like crazy. How important to you on a card like this? I guess not regardless of price, but numbered out at $5.99. How important to you is the gem mint grade here? Keeping in mind the fact that there's 599 copies. Like, do you really look at this 10 as being super critical for you on this card?
100%. Because as part of the deal, I traded an 8.5.
Ah,
Right?
okay. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you get a lot of, especially when you look that if there's, and I don't know the pop report, I don't remember, but on the 9 between BGS
Oh, yep.
and PSA, I think there's like 100 of them, right?
Wow. Yeah.
That's a lot, bro. That's a
Yep.
lot. So nothing wrong with it. It's great, but to spend, you know, thousands of dollars on something like that, I think you can probably put the money elsewhere. I think at that point, in my opinion, you're just better off with 7,
Yeah,
right?
and that kind of fits your threshold of the card that you can go find in a heartbeat versus this is the card. I mean, good luck, right?
Exactly. There's probably 30 of those on eBay right now. None of them are 10s. I don't know when the last time a 10 sold, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, makes sense. Awesome.
Yep.
So we have another Tom Brady up next. I see
Yep.
this is his rookie card, but there's something different about it. So you got to tell me, what do we got here?
Yeah. So I think like this has got to be one of the most underrated rookie cards. First of all, I have his refractor too, and I absolutely love it. It's great, but a lot of people have that card, and you kind of see it. And if I had that here, it wouldn't be that. I tried to pick things that were unique, right? Things that maybe a new collector has never really seen before, right? Because if you look at this card at first glance, like, oh, it's his Bowman or maybe his Bowman Chrome rookie, which is one of the most liquid cards in the hobby. Great. Well, this came out of Bowman. It scans horribly, right? It looks so bad in the scan, and even now, like it's really hard to see. Like it's really hard to see. You got to really see it in hand. That's why I sent you that other picture of it. But like, um, it's a gold foil version of the Bowman base card. Now these are numbered to 99, right? There's one of each of every card in the set, and it came out of Bowman, not Bowman Chrome. This card is so rare. Like, it's so much rarer than the refractor. Ironically, there's actually one on eBay right now that there hasn't been a public sale of this card for, I want to say, 2 years, right? But there's one on eBay now, and I hope you're listing the guy that listed that. You should not have listed that on eBay. You're not going to get what I think that card should have been at PWCC or Golden or something like that. But if you're in the market for one of these, there's a PSA 8 on eBay right now, no reserve. I think somebody could probably get it for a really good price. But anyway, it's numbered to 99. I couldn't tell you how rare this thing is. I mean, let's say there's 300 cards in the set. You don't even get 1 gold per box, dude. So
Wow.
you technically have to rip over 300 boxes to get this card, right? And it's a pop 5 and an 8.5, which is kind of a pretty rare
That is
grade, which
interesting.
I like. I like 8.5s personally, but because they're always low pop in PSA, always, right? Um, and yeah, and it's kind of a sleepy Brady because everybody when they see this card, they either think base Bowman paper, they think base Bowman Chrome, or they think Bowman Chrome refractor, which is they're all great, but this is rarer than all 3 of those. And I think it blows my mind when you see the base cards, the base paper and the base Chrome sell what they sell for in a gem mint grade. Like I don't understand why you would want to buy that when you can probably pick up at this point, maybe a refractor and like a 7 grade, the same price as a gem paper, right? Um, I don't know. I mean, again, goes back to that supply discussion to where I like things that you don't see all the time, that are super rare, that, are desirable in the market and you just don't always see. That's usually, like I said, I'm trying to get my whole PC to be in that direction.
So just to emphasize what you said there, are there no other variations of this photo of this card in 2000 besides this and the refractor and again the base and for both sets? This is it, right? These are the
Yeah,
only
yeah,
4.
yeah. So there was this also, it's called a Rookie of the Year promotional card, right? So
Okay.
the front of it looks like a Bowman paper, right? It looks like a Bowman paper. The back is like almost like a redemption. Like you fill out the back and you were to mail it in, right? Which is cool. And I want to get one because they're pretty rare,
Hmm.
but the pricing's kind of all over the place. You can definitely find them. And I get a little nervous with that kind of stuff because you don't know, there could be 20 of them sitting in a box somewhere, right? Because it's kind of a weird card. Like it's
Hmm.
the population is just going to increase over time because it's one of those things where you know how when you open up packs of panini and you get like the panini points type card. It's almost like one of those, but it's Tom Brady on the front.
That's
So
interesting.
yeah, it's called Rookie of the Year promotion. So if you ever take a look at that, but yeah, the front is just a straight up Bowman paper, and it's got like a gold foil Rookie of the Year logo in it.
Awesome. Yeah, I didn't actually know that exists, but that makes sense. It's kind of one
Mm-hmm.
of those, like you said, where if you're paying that kind of money, I'd imagine you want to be pretty confident. You know how many of these are floating around. Not be
Yeah.
the fact that they're not numbered isn't the issue. Probably the issue is, like you said, it's so weird. You just don't know if there's boxes sitting somewhere extra.
Yep. A good friend of mine always says too, if like you have to tell too big of a story, you gotta, you maybe want to, it's fine if it's PC, it's fine, it's good, but you may want to, curb your spending if you have to explain the card too much, you
Yep.
know?
Doesn't sell itself. You got to do
Right.
it for it. Yeah. Okay. So fourth card here. I'd love to hear about this one. How you got it? Where does it fit kind of in your collection schemes? This is the first baseball I've seen, so I'd love to hear more about this
Yep.
card here.
So I started collecting baseball. This card kind of has an interesting story. First of all, I chased this thing down. I don't and this was before this. Probably, I think I bought this in like 2015, 2014, something like that. And I chased it down at an auction house, right, where I saw it at the National sitting there, and I'm like, "Ooh, this is the card I came for." And I don't know if you're familiar with this card, but this one is exceptionally beautiful for a one, right? Like most ones look like they've been crinkled into a ball, they've been folded in half. They have literally round corners. They have no eye appeal. They don't have vivid color, all this other stuff. This card's a one because it has a staple mark above his head.
Oh no way!
Right?
So somebody took
Yeah.
this Mickey Mantle rookie. This is 52, right? I can't read
Yeah.
from here.
Yeah.
So they
Mhm.
took it, stapled it to like their wall or something. That's probably what happened here.
Yep. Yep. And that
Wow.
and once you do that, it's immediately a one. Right. So when I saw that, I was like, wow, I didn't know that. And I started to learn, first of all, that's when I learned that. Right. And I started to dive deeper into the PSA defaults. Like, okay, like what happens when you do X to a card, it automatically gets boom. Like something like, I think if it's got a crinkle in the surface, the highest grade it can get is a five. Right.
Yep,
There's
I've
like,
been there. It's for sure that I agree
yeah,
with you on that. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So that's when I kind of started learning that. Well, it was at an auction at the National, and it's when I learned like you can't just buy the card sitting there and you just gotta like follow it around for like 3 months, right? And um and that's basically what I did. And won it at the auction because I wanted to be like within a certain budget. Because like I said, at the time I wasn't that comfortable spending a lot of money. And this card's always been pretty expensive compared to the rest of the market. In hindsight, I wish I would have bought a higher grade, but it's tough because and it's a card that I want to upgrade, but it's a hard card to upgrade, man. Because if you look at a 3 or a 4, they sometimes don't look any better,
Mhm.
right? So it's going to be hard to upgrade because I'm going to have to probably sell it to get the most money for it, and then use those funds to buy it rather than like try and find a dealer that's got one and then trade up for it or something like that.
So with a market on a card like this, I was going to ask here. You talked about having to tell a story with a card. If this card hypothetically were to go to auction for whatever
Mhm.
reason, maybe not even this one, just another example where it's a one because of the staple. Does the market reflect the fact that it's so much better looking than some of these other grades? Like, would the
Absolutely.
price reflect that?
Yeah, definitely. So like if this went to auction, because dude, if you go look at ones and twos of this card,
Mhm.
you're like, ugh, right? Like you can't buy that, right?
Looks like somebody
Just
blew
just
their nose into this thing.
dude, crazy. Just folds down the middle. I mean, it's weird how what they could score a one and what they can't. So yeah, I think that it would probably get like a 30% premium conservatively, but at the
Mhm.
same time, I've seen cards like this, maybe on a mantle, but like a Jackie Robinson or something that has this sort of color and eye appeal that'll get the same price as like a PSA 2,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
3, yeah, definitely. Because because like I said, once you start, if you're in the market for it and you look at it, you're like, wait, why is that a one? Is it missing the back? Because another thing is like it has a full back. The back is full. Whereas if you had paper loss on the back, it would automatically make it a one as well, which I have also seen, meaning they didn't staple it to the book, they glued it to the book, right? And they peel it off the glue, you lose the back, but you got the front of the card. The front of the card might look like a five, but the back has nothing, it's ripped, whatever, paper loss. And then it's an automatic, typically a one or an authentic.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know any of this. That's interesting. That's why I like doing this. You learn about cards and see cards you know normally don't have conversations about.
Yeah, man. With vintage eye appeal, just overall eye appeal, centering, color, registration. I gotta tell you, man, and I'm not a huge vintage guy. I've got some really nice pieces, but I've got maybe 15 vintage slaps, right? But eye appeal with vintage is significant. I don't think it's really a factor in anything other than vintage, personally.
Mhm.
I think it might help you sell something faster on a newer card, but like when it comes to like color registration and overall centering, I think it's really it's incredibly important on vintage, especially on key cards.
Oh, that totally makes sense. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing all the tips here. This is super helpful. And I
Yeah.
appreciate this. This is an awesome conversation. So, Joey, we'll end here quick with a fast five. I'll just ask you five quick questions. You kind of give me your first immediate answer here.
All right.
Um, so, first one, do you have a card that comes to mind as a not necessarily a regret, but a card you'd love to get back again? What's that card in your mind?
No.
No.
No. I don't have one, man.
Good
Honestly.
for you. Good for you.
I really don't, because anything I've sold I can go get again.
Yeah. That's a good answer. I appreciate that. I would answer
Yep.
the same actually, which maybe is just because I'm so new, but I know everyone has sometimes people have those cards that got away.
Yep.
The second one here is what if you could add a PMG red that's not Michael Jordan to pair with either your Barry Sanders or your Kobe, what player would it be and why?
Shaq, because I think
Shaq
it's a
or
great
Kobe.
pairing. Yeah, definitely.
So he's Lakers jersey, obviously, in '97, right?
Yep. Yep. It's kind of an ugly card, to be honest with you.
Oh,
I
he's
don't
like
think
is he like
weird.
jumping, like kind of weird, turned sideways?
Yeah, because Shaq has some amazing looking cards, in my opinion. Like he's always like dunking or doing something cool. Like he's just always got some really great looking cards. And his PMG is kind of weird looking, but I think it would be a cool pairing. You know how like in our Manning group, we're all about the pairings, and like pretty much actually, yeah, every Brady that we've looked at, I have the Manning, every single one,
Mm.
not just these, the ones that we flashed, the O2 finest, all of them. You know, so I'm all about that, and I think the Shaq would be a killer pairing to the Kobe.
Do you have the Manning Gold out of 2000 Bowman?
I sure do.
Oh man, that's a cool
Yep.
card. I gotta see that sometime. It's awesome.
Dude, and it was like $80. It wasn't even, it's great. Yeah, no, it's super rare. Like they don't come up very often. But you know, when they do, people are kind of not looking for it. And yeah, it's great. I bought it raw. I think it's like it graded a 7 or 8 or
So who would you rather get a beer with, Tom Brady or Peyton Manning?
something. I would probably say Tom Brady.
No, just kidding.
I probably would. I think they're both kind of uh I don't know. I think they're both a little nerdy at this point. But I would probably pick Tom Brady.
Oh,
That would
good answer.
probably
I don't think you can go wrong there.
and only because you know he lived in Tampa, and I feel like you know I could probably make some conversation with him other than what some idiot would start talking to him about. You know, that's probably why I'd go Brady.
Maybe see if you need some eye work done or something.
Yeah, that too. That too.
So fourth question here. What's your favorite restaurant in Tampa? If you had to recommend one for somebody who swings down for a weekend.
Okay, so I'm going to give you two. If you like modern Italian, you definitely need to go to Roca. They just got a Michelin star. It's in Seminole Heights District. The best modern Italian food that I've had in a very long time, and I travel all over the place and I eat at the finest restaurants. Right, that place is phenomenal. It's ROCCA. The second one is also Italian. It's called Donatello's. It's been there since the early '80s. It's old school New Jersey mafia type vibe. So if that's your thing, that's the place to go. Live music every night, super, super old school. They make their own pasta in the back. You know, the guy, you know, kisses you when you get in there, and they got all that whole thing going on, and it's good. So you got Roca and you got Donatello.
Okay, awesome. And fifth and final question, what is a card that maybe someone listening could help you acquire if you're looking for it, that you're willing to share? Is there any on
Yeah,
your list here
of course.
that, maybe haven't seen in a while that you'd love to acquire if somebody's listening and has one that they're open to moving?
Absolutely. A 2013 Prism Gold Tom Brady. Any grade. I don't care what it is. If you got one, I'm in. And also, can I have two or just one?
Yeah, no, do too.
Okay. The 2000 Tom Brady credentials, number to 25.
Is that the
Those are
now or the
the
future, or is it just
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's that card, man. That's a tough one. Those are the two that are probably at the top of my list right now.
no, awesome. And quick question for you too. The 2012 Prism Gold, there's one at auction still, right? For Brady right now?
Yeah, yeah. I think it might have closed last night, dude.
Oh, I
Which
didn't check.
yeah, I know it was at 100, right, or
Okay,
a
I wonder if
hundred
it got
and
any
twenty or
higher.
something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was curious. My guess was going to be it was going to do like 130, 140,
yeah.
something like that.
That's why I was
That
saying
was
like 50% range of what that first one did. Because the first one was
yeah,
like, did that one actually sell? The one that was 250 if you look on Card Ladder?
I don't think the guy paid. Whoever
Okay, so it
bought
might be
that, I don't
appearing,
think
but
that sale went through. Yeah. So, but I think realistically, I think that's probably the money for the card. Which so I love 2012 Prism is great. It's the first year. It's awesome. It's shiny. All that other stuff, right? Like I get it. But as far as purely from an aesthetics point of view, I don't particularly care for it. The Brady, right? I think it's obviously the card to have. It's his probably one of his best, most modern cards. And I don't know if you know this, but the Finite is allegedly still out there. I don't know if you knew that. But yeah, yeah, it's allegedly still out there. And I've seen guys like we I've seen guys rip, and I helped rip the packs like 2 cases of that stuff, right? We did it at last national. He bought 2 cases, I think, and he let us all rip it in his room. It was actually
so
incredibly generous of him.
funny story, before we got together at this national too, that same thing happened. They had 2 cases. I got to open a couple packs. When we got, for anyone listening, we got together with like the Peyton kind of collectors group chat that we have, just a couple guys. And then there's a Brady one that the Captain 37 is in both of these. So we just organized a little get together. And yeah, I can't recall who the person who bought the cases were, but there was 2 of them that were ripped, specifically looking for the
Yeah,
Brady. I think
yeah,
the
it was
best card we
Joe.
got was like $30, but
Yeah, it was Joe, and I know he likes to keep things private. So, but his PC is incredible, and I always kind of we always joke around. I actually DM'd him today, and
Mhm.
because he's got an incredible PC. It's way bigger than mine. But of the cards that I do have that he has, right? All of mine are like the grade lower. Every single one, dude. Doesn't matter. He could have the 9, mine's an 8. He's got the 10, I got the 9. Like everything, everything, and it's kind of like a joke. Throwback.
That's hilarious. Awesome, Joey. Well, thanks again so much. This was super fun. An hour just flew by. So I hope everyone listening enjoyed and learned a ton, because I definitely did just sitting here. So, Joey, just really appreciate it. Thanks so much for hopping on.
Yeah, man. Thank you, dude. Thanks for having me. It was great. A lot of fun.